What does it feel like to lose everything? Is a absolute shock to your system. I lost it all. You strip all these unnecessary things and you are left with the basics. Money doesn't make anything okay. What I had been doing was not working. It hadn't been working for a long time. You cannot hustle forever. I do have quite a shortcut. You cannot give up and you cannot wait. And welcome, Beate Schelett here, the Growth Architect. Welcome and congratulations. This is our 200th episode. So in this episode, I'm going to get completely personal and I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have learned in my life that I want to give you some insights on, like what works, what doesn't work. Also, I really want to cut the bullshit and share with you what it's been like now almost a year after the fire, what it's like to lose everything and recover. And the question always is, what does it feel like to lose everything? What does it feel like to lose everything is that the beginning is a absolute shock to your system. And I think this is probably true for anybody who has a major catastrophe in their lives. I want to acknowledge that my fire might not be fire, but if you are like any of the people I know, you probably have a significant challenge in your life at some point or another, because your story, probably very much like mine, isn't the princess woke up one day, things were handed to her, and then one day she became the queen and lived happily ever after. It would be nice and incredibly boring, and that's just not the way it goes. So what really happens in life is that as you progress through the decades in your life, and I want to acknowledge that many of our podcast listeners are on the younger side, especially on our YouTube channel. I want to give you a shout out and thank you for being here. And thank you for listening to the show. And I hope that you find this valuable to bring this out to other people. What people have said about me consistently over the years is that they say I'm a breath of fresh air, which kind of goes both ways. Like the first thing they say, you're a breath of fresh air. And then they say, you're a breath of fresh air. They also say that I am a no bullshit straight shooter, that I say it as it is. And that's really partially because I'm probably German and it's in my nature to not make a big fuss about things that are pretty obvious. And that's something I had to learn. I had to get a little bit more sensitive around other people's feelings. But I want to share some of these learnings with you. And I'm going to be totally honest. So here, those of you who are listening and don't see me, I'm sitting here in my workout outfit. And I'm sitting here in my workout outfit because, probably like you, I thought I'm going to get up and then I'm going to hit the gym immediately after that first phone call. Well, what do you know? Stuff happens and then this happens and this happens and I'm still sitting here and I am going to go to the gym at some point until maybe at some point it is too late or I'm really hungry and then I won't make it. The story of my life. How do you make self-care a priority? Something I struggle with my entire life because I am so dedicated to what I do. But let's go back to life. My career now spans 45 years, believe it or not. I started when I was 16, working in a lab, a photo lab. And then I moved out when I was 17 and started my career as a photographer. From there, I went into the magazine world, was a photo editor, first a flashy Zeitgeist magazine called Wiener Magazine. I know, you can chuckle. And then a photo editor at Elle Magazine. And then I immigrated to the United States and I've been here in the United States since 1889. So a really, really long time. I think that what happens in life is that we go through these stages, or you can call them version 1.0, 2.0, and I'm definitely in version 3.0, where oftentimes major changes occur. So I think the first one really occurs when you're around sort of 30 plus minus a few, when potentially you have a family, you have children, and you are now really needing to leave that part behind. The second one is somewhere around your 45-ish, because then it's when you realize that you are starting to get older and you need to really get very clear and smart about your career. And then the third part is version 3.0, where I am, where you really think more about your legacy. This corresponds with a lot of my teachings in the Forge, the creation, the growth, and the scaling. Now, In the beginning of my life, and maybe in the beginning of your life, you worry a lot about what other people think about you. Have you said the wrong thing? Did you sound stupid? Did you demonstrate subject matter expertise? How do you become an authority? You see people that are so polished and you want to be like them. I remember as a young business owner, I saw a woman on stage at a convention for the National Association of Women Business Owners, and she was so good speaking that I realized that and decided at that point, at one point, I'm going to be her. I'm going to be on stage. I'm going to tell my story. And I've told my story many, many times in the days since. Then in the second stage of the life, you realize that you cannot hustle forever, that you need to also take care of yourself. You try to figure out how to find balance between a personal relationship, family, children, and your business, which I completely failed at, to be honest with you. I don't think I ever got that right. But in my defense, I was a single mom, an immigrant. I was in a city that wasn't my own. I really didn't have anybody to help me. My ex-husband is an alcoholic and a pathological liar. I don't think to this day he can tell the truth. And you get yourself in these situations in life where you make some serious mistakes or you make choices that are going to bite you in the butt later on. And you fight through these, and then you get better with the money. You get better with understanding on how this works. You're not so freaked out. You start caring a little bit less about what other people think, except maybe the drive to this financial goal that's always put in front of us, that somehow we believe that money will make everything okay. Money doesn't make anything okay. Money just makes decisions easier because you don't have to worry about money. It's one less worry, but you still will worry about your children. You still will worry about your health. You still will get in fights with your partner. You still have maybe a problem with your car. That never goes away. It just changes on your ability to address some of these things with money, because then it's not a big issue. If I go to a restaurant, luckily I don't have to look at if I'm going to get the steak or the salmon or the pasta. I can order whatever I want. That's the privilege of having worked as long as I have and gotten here. And you will too when you follow the path, and you follow the path consciously. If that is the path, then you want to go. And then in this third part of your life, you start to see a significant shift where suddenly you recognize that you cannot compete or keep up with the new ideas, that you are at this edge of being obsolete. And now you need to think about on whether you want to allow that, or whether you're going to have to change your positioning and your branding to step into wisdom and more of a legacy thinking and more of an education and sharing, so that you can take more people with you. And that's called mentorship. And that's called education. That's called sharing. And it's called really legacy. And when you are clear that these stages in life actually do happen and they happen to you, then it's not going to be so stressful to be in the situation that you might be in right now, because you know that after this comes something else. So 200 episodes. The podcast came from this idea that we had done a LinkedIn outreach with a friend by the name of Joe Curry out of Florida. And we had done this outreach promising people that we were going to bring them on our podcast. And then when people started biting and we had some pretty good, decent people wanting to go on the podcast, I realized I had to actually produce the podcast. And otherwise, I'd be not true to my word. And I really don't do that. So we created the podcast. And now we are here 200 episodes later. What have I learned? I have learned that podcasting is definitely a long game. I also have learned that you need to give yourself a lot of time to get this podcast thing right. That the real conversation are the better conversations, and that you have to tie this into your idea of what your business model really is. Does it help or hurt the model? I love podcasting because I can pick who I want to talk to. Selfishly, I bring people on the show that bring value, not just to you, but also to myself. I curate these conversations with the utmost importance, really, because you, the listener, the audience, is the single most important thing to me. And sometimes we have people that just look at podcasts like another thing to do in an authority platform building tool, which it is. but you can tell that they are only interested in sort of hitting the key points, but they don't really want to go deep. And that brings me now to the main point of today's conversation, the real you. When you go through a catastrophic event, you have no choice other than to strip the nonsense because you just don't have time. You can't even do as much as do your hair. I think it's taken me 4 months or 5 months until I touched a blow dryer or a brush to even deal with my hair. I couldn't care less because at the time I was fully in survival. So what happens is that you strip all these unnecessary things and you are left with the basics. And the basic questions are following the 5-star success blueprint, the 40 million success blueprint. What's the original idea? What am I doing it for? Who am I? What am I doing and who am I doing it for? And is it even worth it? Then you go into these questions of looking into what stays, what goes. And I shared this with you before that the biggest lesson that I have learned, and which I think is a big lesson that many of you are going through, it's not just about giving freely with no expectation of return. This is a time of getting the giving and the receiving, like in an infinity sign, into balance. That this will only work if you don't just give and deplete yourself and then burn out, but that you also are asking for and learning how to receive help. I have never in my life received help. I actually was proud to have done it all by myself. I thought that there's somebody handing out rewards that say things like, she did it all by herself, she figured it all out by herself. But that's not really a leadership attribute, is it? And we've talked about this on the show extensively. What is leadership? Leadership is your ability to lead from the front, not to push people from behind. And it means that you have to have the vision and you need to tell people, come on, follow me. We are kind of going that way. And I want to ask you that question. Your leadership style. Are you ready to lead, or are you just sitting here and pretending to lead because there's nobody to lead because you don't know where you're going and you're just sort of making it through? And that is the number one issue I see with entrepreneurs right now. We are at an inflection point, and this is a serious inflection point. We talk about spirituality a lot. The teachings, the ancient teachings all have had this prophecy that the next wave of spirituality will come from the West. We are the West. The first wave came from the East when all of these philosophies, Buddhism and the teachings of Hinduism and the Jewish teaching, all of this came from a different place. But where are we now? We're seeing that a lot of healers and enlightened people are really stepping up, and that there is an increased a push towards spirituality. And if you don't like spirituality, replace it with purpose, replace it with flow state, replace it with a word that you don't find a lot of friction with. I say the same thing, I believe in God, but some people have a problem with the word God, probably because of what religion tells you it is. Replace it with a word that you can live with, energy, universe, the life force, whatever that might be. That is easier for you to connect to if there is a history of you with it. So as you step into these questions of what's actually happening right now, you see that the divide is so intense between the left and the right. It's like polar opposites. And that is bad and that is good. So there really feels like there is no middle right now. You're either for this and then you're required to be for all of this, or you're for this and then you're required to be for all of that, which of course is utter nonsense. Of course, I can believe in not paying a lot of taxes, and I can believe in healthcare for all. How is that even contradictory? How am I being forced into believing one or the other? So now what I see on my side, and that's why I choose to use phrases around founders of the future for the show, is that I'm recognizing that this is really happening, that people are questioning these belief systems and people are sick and tired of being forced into one belief system, that's somebody's doctrine, when they know better that there are multiple ways to look at something and they might have a cornucopia of opinions that appear to one party or another contradictory. Now, if there's such a high level of polarity, it just means that the law of polarity is in effect. You hear me talk about the law of polarity all the time. The law of polarity, I think, is an incredibly important law because it says what exists on one side must exist on the other. So now if you look at the polarity we're seeing outside, then if you focus on the one side, the other side of this already must exist. So I prefer to focus on the side of the founders of the future, of what's happening, what's already changing, not of the dismantling of a old broken system that really is just shit, if you really want to know. That's never worked for women, it's never worked for minorities, never really worked for anybody. Now it's not working for men, and now it's this big uproar. Oh my gosh, the system's not working. I told you this 40 years ago. I mean, this is how bad it is. These systems were set up on an industrial workforce from the 1950s. We are now, 75 years later, and we still work in the same systems. Of course, as an overhaul with AI, the technology, all of this is now in a massive transition. So you have two choices now. Your choice now is either to say, what is my future as a founder of the future? Am I going to stand here and be upset at what has happened in the past and that the stuff that didn't work is breaking apart? Or you have a much more sober approach to it, which I recommend, that is, it's never worked, it's falling apart, it's painful, let it fall apart. And then think about, what are you building? What is your contribution to building this forward? And deliberately find your communities that are aligned with the belief system that you are having. So for some of you, that might mean that you might go to a very volatile and very hateful event. But if you're listening to the show, I think the chances of that are probably relatively limited. But if you are looking at where's my community? Where do I fit in? For me personally, and I'm going to give you these examples, so you can follow this and maybe it makes where you are at not so unbearable. The changes are significant. And that is by design of the point that we are at. There's been a mass activation of people that have heard the call, that are realizing that what they have done, they cannot do anymore. But if something needs to change, it means something of a lower nature needs to go and something of a higher nature needs to come in. And what does that mean for you? It means that you have to consciously and deliberately let something go. Now, if you let go of something, it means that something you believed in is no longer valid. Now, your ego will not like that. It will throw up a fit. It'll do what the ego does. Don't change. Stay where you are at, even though it's terrible, even though you're not making enough money, even if people don't like you. But maybe if you try it a little bit more in the exact same way that's not worked for the last 10 years, and then somehow it magically will work. It will not. The truth of the matter is, and I promise you I'm going to be really honest on this podcast, what I had been doing was not working and hadn't been working for a long time. I love the impact that I'm making. I love that what I teach and what I talk about really works. I see it every day. My problem is the sales portion of it, because I'm so busy in this creation and other parts of it. I've not been able to figure out how to bring this message to enough people, even though over the years I have added significant social media following. My message is out there. I think the message is good. It creates results. However, the financial part is not there and wasn't and hadn't been there. Certainly not to justify keep doing what I'm doing, but I kept doing what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing, and I justified that somehow in my mind until it all burned to the ground. And then I didn't have an office, and I didn't have a podcast studio. And then I had to think about every single thing. What am I keeping? What am I rebuying? Actually, what am I keeping wasn't even the question because I had nothing. I mean, I lost it all. So what am I rebuilding? What am I bringing into this next chapter of my life? And this literally happened 3 months after I turned 60. So talk about a marker in the road. The challenge that I had had for many years, probably for the last at least 5-6 years, was that I had felt that I was getting older And I couldn't compete with a lot of your ideas and the way you look at what's coming in the future, because I am not where you are at. What I'm solving is different than what you're solving right now. And that's a hard change to go through and say, am I willing to look at that? And that was really painful. And then I look in the mirror, I see my wrinkles, I see my cellulite, I see my age. I'm a grandmother, which I love, but I'm definitely aging. And it wasn't until too long ago where I was a angry feminist, probably cat lady, that stole her fortune from an unsuspecting, nice man that I've totally taken advantage of. Oh, yeah. And here's the other one. And I haven't had sex in like 20 years, right? None of which is true. But that's the perception. And I really struggled with that because I felt it was harsh and judgmental. So I looked at, how do you stay relevant? How do you ever stay relevant? And the key to it is very simple. You have to connect with the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And that's only possible through mentorship and education. So I cannot pretend that I'm on the same level that all of you are, because that's probably not correct. Because you are at a different stage in your life, and it's neither good nor bad, nor is one up or below the other. And some of you might be significantly better and much more successful in your endeavors than I am at this point in life. But what I do have are the shortcuts. And when I realized that, what really authentically, when you drop the bullshit, when you drop the act, when you drop the trying to be anything, when you stop the Facebook idiotic idiocies and the photographing your food on Instagram, and you really, really think about it, what matters to connections and interactions with other people. And I learned that after the fire, that all these investments I had made over these many, many years with building these relationships with people really have paid off in a big way. When I needed help, people came out of the woodworks and helped me left and right. So my advice to you, as you are going through these probably rather challenging times, is as follows. Nobody really cares because they're so busy wondering if you care about their life. The quicker you step into your vulnerability and allowing people to see the truth, the more resonance you will have. The fake it till you make it doesn't mean making stuff up. Fake it till you make it means you find something you truly believe in and you hold onto that belief until you can manifest it. I can manifest and believe that I have a desire to impact 1 million entrepreneurs with giving them the shortcuts, and we're building the SaaS product because we've been, I've been told in my spiritual journeys that I'm to give my IP away. My IP, something that I've built and protected for decades. And now Spirit wants me to just give it to you. All of the shortcuts, everything that makes me, and give it to you and encourage you to become growth architects and teach you not just what I do, but how I do it so you can do it for your clients. And that's exactly the message. Now, going through the loss I'm going through and then getting that message, let me tell you, I've had a few sleepless nights over that. But I think it's true. It is true. Because how good is my IP if I take it to the grave? How good is it if I take all of what I've created and built on how to do these things successfully and not make it open to the world? And every time I meditate on it, it's like, you're here, the time has come, you need to push it out there. So we are building the SaaS. I want to tell you about this because while we're not fully ready to roll it out, I want you to know it's coming. And if you're interested in it, reach out to us and I'll tell you when we are launching it. There will be a twin that I'm creating for myself because over the last 15 years, I've pretty much recorded all of my sessions. So I have a large body that I can train an AI model on. Imagine you have access to me 24/7 and that we are building next so that you can have access to it. Then I'm taking these teachings that I've created in these 3 different programs. And I want you to listen to this, not from a sales perspective, if this resonates with you or not, but this is also a behind the scenes look so that you can learn on how to do this. So we created this whole model, the Forge, into these 3 different elements: the Creative Forge, the Growth Forge, and the Legacy Forge, based upon what I was just telling you, basically through the stages of business growth and the stages of life and the stages of how you mature in your career. And then I looked at what the market does, right? And the market goes, get rich in the niche. And then they only teach you this tiny, tiny, tiny little thing and pretend it's a business model. Speaking is not a business model. Podcasting is not a business model. Funnel building is not a business model. Product launching is not a business model. These are all tactics that should fit into a particular business model. To my knowledge, I'm really one of the few people that addresses what is the business model so that you can understand how to build the foundation. That's why so many businesses, in my opinion, fail. Yes, you have the coaches and you have this and that, but you are putting Band-Aids on things that you are identifying yourself that you think are wrong, but you don't even know what the real problem is. Otherwise, you would have already fixed it. So you go to somebody who's got the good SEO, who's got the persuasive language, and then you figure it out that if you only know how to speak from stage, then somehow your life would be magic and amazing. Yes, you can do that. I don't think that's most of the time the way this works. The way it works is that you build a business model based upon what it is that you want and your lifestyle and where you want to be and the balance you want to have. And then based on that, we are going in and we're designing what we need to have from all these different tactics that are actually going to get you there. And then we're going to build this. And the second part of the SaaS is a high-level based CRM. Now, high level is a great CRM. It's very complicated and it's a very steep learning curve. So we decided that based up on the 3 different levels in the Forge, we are only populating the things into each level that you need at that level as to not confuse you and help you to get off the ground faster. So if this is something you're interested in and want to learn more about it, please reach out. We are running these programs. The SaaS is being built as we speak. The AI agent or the AI twin is in development as well. So I estimate that this will probably be at the end of Q1 2026 when we are officially launching the SaaS. No matter what you do or where you're going right now, build the business model first. Do not get sidetracked with all this other stuff that people are telling you. I just spoke at the Accelerator Impact in Austin, and something is definitely happening to my message. People cry and they're so moved by the clarity of the message and the simplicity, because I've been stripping it down further and further and further. What is the essence of what you really need to know with all the window dressing? What do you really need to know to get there in the fastest possible way? And I think the message is landing. If you're hearing something in this podcast that you want to tap into, go to uncoverysession.com, schedule your uncovery session with me directly. I don't have any high ticket closers, at least not at this time. There's nobody other than me. And my desire simply is, what do you need? Can I help you? And if I can help you, I will tell you. And if I cannot help you, I will also tell you. And if I know somebody who can help you better, I will send you to them, because my desire right now really is founders of the future are needed in large, large, large quantities. The one thing that you cannot do right now is you cannot give up and you cannot wait. And that's my message for you today. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Share it with others. Help me help more people. 200 episodes, and here's to our next 200. And until next time, and goodbye. That's it for this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you're done playing small and ready to build the future on your terms, subscribe, share, and help us reach more trailblazers like you. And if you're serious about creating, growing, and scaling a business that's aligned with who you are, schedule your Uncovery session at uncoverysession.com. Lead with vision. Move with purpose. Create your future.